Welcome to the MS-Perspektive podcast, Perspective with a K as I'm German. I'm Nele von Horsten, MS patient, patient advocate and author. I'm bringing you interviews, inspiration and information about living with multiple sclerosis and show you ways how you can positively influence the disease and make the best out of your diagnosis. On ms-perspektive.com you will find the show notes, 11 free tips as a PDF and lots of other information. And now the show begins. Thanks for tuning in again and welcome to episode number 73, Si se puede, Chris' journey of invisible battles and visible triumphs as Latina with MS in the US. Crystal Bedoya is a digital content creator, freelance writer, and lives in Yuma, Arizona in the United States. And now the interview begins. Hey Chris, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your podcast. I'm so excited to be here and speak with you today.
Yes, and it's a pleasure for me. So, Crystal, before we start, it would be lovely if you could introduce yourself to the audience so they know who is with me on the podcast today.
Yes, of course. So my name is Crystal Bedoya. I am a disabled Latina creator and writer from the warm and sunny state of Arizona in the United States of America. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis as a child, and I have been living with it for almost 20 years now. And thankfully, now I share about my journey and what comes with it on social media. So I have been able to create content about that and my adventures living with multiple sclerosis, which has been amazing. And I've been able to do a lot of really cool things because of that. And yeah, I'm very excited to be speaking with you guys today and share more about my journey.
Yes, and you are always very active. I can see it on Instagram. All your nice stories and posts, and yeah, it's always lovely to see the sun. I mean, right now we are having summer in Germany, but let's say some people say, oh, there are 9 months of not summer. No, it's not that bad. But our winters are not as cold and full of snow as they were when I was a kid. Okay, so you already mentioned a little bit, but maybe can you share your journey with the MS diagnosis and what difficulties were involved in it?
Yeah, of course. So I was 11 years old when I first started experiencing my first MS symptoms, which were essentially numbness, weakness, and tingling on the entire right side of my body. It was, to be honest, very scary. I honestly had no idea what was going on. And initially, I just brushed it off, right? I tell myself, I mean, your limbs fall asleep, right? Like your arm falls asleep, your leg falls asleep. You just get up and you start moving it and it's supposed to feel like normal. Well, that wasn't the case for me. And I realized that it was just getting worse. And I told my parents, like, hey, I need to go to the doctor. Something's wrong with me. And it was a misdiagnosis and having to travel to a different city to see a specialist, which was a neurologist, which was then when I finally received my official diagnosis of multiple sclerosis.
Okay, so how many months or weeks or days did it took you and your parents to get the correct diagnosis?
To be perfectly honest, I don't remember how many months it was, but it definitely was months. We saw doctors at the local hospital in my area. They were the ones that told me that they believed it was bacteria in my brain initially that was causing all of these symptoms. And obviously that was confusing in itself. Like, what does that mean? Right. Mm-hmm. And my symptoms continued to be persistent. And it was until we traveled to a different city where we finally met with a neurologist there, and they were like, yeah, this is multiple sclerosis. And that's when we started off that new journey of mine.
Okay, so when you received the diagnosis, how easy was it for you and your parents to understand what that means? And was there good information available in Spanish, or did you receive everything in English?
Everything was in English. It was far from easy. It was extremely challenging, mostly because we had never heard of multiple sclerosis. I still continue to be the only person in my family who has MS. So everything is brand new for me. Everything is brand new for my parents. Everything brand new for the people around me, right? So it's very difficult for me to explain the whole concept of MS to people sometimes, but I try my best to keep myself informed and educate others so that we avoid confusion. But it definitely is challenging. It was challenging then for my parents too, just accepting the fact that I was I was about to embark in a very scary and unpredictable journey, right? Because with MS, you just never know what will throw at you, and I can say that I have become very adaptable because of it. So, I mean, there was a good thing, I guess. I became very perseverant, and yeah, it's been an adventure in itself for sure.
Yes, I can imagine. And yeah, in Germany, in German, we use the word resilient. You're very resilient, I guess, very strong to
Thank you.
everything that is, yeah, coming to you, and you are still staying in, probably not every time in a good mood, but let's say more or less overall, the overall situation is you are still a happy person, and that is very important. And I think that's something, in a way, you're having in your soul when you're born. I don't know if it's really possible to adapt to it, but yeah, for sure, very, very amazing. So how did you perceive the diagnosis as a child, and what was it like for your family?
As a kid, honestly, the first words that came through my head when we received my diagnosis, sorry, was why me? And I know that for a lot of people who are diagnosed with MS, they do experience that as well. But yeah, like all I kept thinking about was like, why me? Why did this happen to me? Am I being punished? Like what did I do wrong to have this sort of fate, right? And that's really unfair to myself to be thinking that way, especially as a child. Like you're already going through so much, especially as a teenager. Like I was a preteen trying to figure life out, trying to find my way in the world, right? And here comes this colossal diagnosis that I had no idea what it would like have me go through. And I I definitely empathize with 11-year-old Chris so much because I don't know how she did it. I to be honest, now that I'm 30 years old, it's almost 20 years since, and I still don't know how she did it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the, yeah, amazing things. And maybe I should take some of my words back. Kids are normally very resilient, so it's
They are,
probably when things are thrown at them, they can go through a lot of ugly things and get
for sure.
out, and still maybe have some scars, but they are getting out and getting over all that stuff. So, were you immediately recommended disease modifying therapies, and how did you decide? Because, I mean, you just said it's 19, 20 years back in time, and things have changed. And one important thing, I guess, in the US, did the health insurance company cover these costs?
Yeah, so I was very lucky to have had a doctor who it like recommended my parents and I to start a DMT because the way that the doctors described it was my MS was very aggressive. Like as even though it's a pediatric MS diagnosis, for some reason I got dealt this deck of cards where my MS is just very aggressive, very unpredictable. So that's when they decided, okay, I think that we should start her on this disease modifying therapy drug, which was Copaxone. And I mean, again, I'm very thankful that I had insurance that covered that medication. And I mean, even that in itself, having to accept that I was going to have to be injecting myself every day as a child, it was a lot. It was a lot to like accept that this was going to be my reality. I mean, just the mere thought of thinking like, okay, after school, I have to worry about my homework, right? But I also have to worry about injecting myself either on my arm, my stomach, or my thighs. And I remember it would freak my mom out and it would freak me out. But then I
Hmm.
would have to keep my cool just so that she wouldn't have to freak out. So it was just like a constant emotional roller coaster too, but I'm very grateful that I had insurance. I had my parents, and I mean I figured it out. I had to. I had no choice.
Yeah, yeah, but still great you did it. And when we had it in our master's program, the multiple sclerosis management master's program, unfortunately for children and teenagers, it's very often very active or aggressive, the disease. Luckily, not many of people under 18 years get the diagnosis, but if they have it, because the immune system is so active, unfortunately, autoimmunity is also very active. So it's very, very common, at least, or around about half of them getting it have a very active one. So have you had a change in therapy? And if so, for what reason? Because Copaxone is not really a high efficacy medication.
Yeah, so I have been on 5 DMTs in total throughout my MS journey. And the majority of the cases when we decide to transition to a different one is because it either ended up not working for me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it either meant my MS started to become more active and I had lesions in my brain, new lesions. So that's when the doctor, or it was either new lesions or activity with my MS, or I was experiencing a relapse, right? Which is, it goes hand
Mm-hmm.
in hand with each other. But yeah, at the end of the day, if it meant that it was not working for me anymore, that meant that I had to transition to a different one. And thankfully, the one that I'm currently on right now, Ocrevus, has been working for me. I started taking it in 2020. And this one is an infusion therapy, which is officially my second infusion therapy. And to be quite honest, those are the ones that I enjoy the most because I feel like I don't have to worry about any of that as much compared to the previous ones that I've taken, which is pill form medications and the self injections, right? But it's it's overwhelming having to navigate all of that, to be honest. I have to worry about a lot of things, not only for myself but also for my parents, because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's translating, I'm the one that's interpreting, and I'm the one that's doing the research of these medications. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously they also help me in terms of the decision making. Even as a 30-year-old woman, I still go to them for advice, right? Because I mean, they mean the world to me and their opinion matters to me like no other person. But yeah, like it's a lot to like come to terms with the fact that you have to be taking these medications, but I'm at the end of the day, I'm very happy that it's kept my MS stable, and that's all that matters to me.
Yes. So another question popped into my mind. How was it for you as a child to go into the MRI? Were you scared or was it okay?
Oh my God, let's talk about the MRIs. They're horrifying. I did not enjoy it. Till this day, I do not enjoy it. I can tell you though, and it kind of makes me a little sad, but I found it so much easier to do the MRIs when I was a child because I feel like I
Mm.
didn't really get into my head and the anxiety wouldn't overwhelm me. And I did have, and I will hold on to this memory of mine for the rest of my life. But I remember I had this one MRI experience where they were able to play a movie for me while I was
Yeah.
in there. I don't remember how exactly. I think it was like based on the reflection of the
Mm-hmm.
cage that they had for me, but I could see a movie from the inside, and I think they were playing The Lion King or Little Mermaid. But I that made my whole freaking life. Like to me, I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. Like it's not even the fact that I'm having to sit here and be inside of this like very scary machine, but the fact that they're like allowing me to like watch a movie while I'm in here, amazing. And yeah, I've had other appointments where they've allowed me to listen to music while I'm in there, which also makes the experience a lot more easier to bear with. But it's definitely gotten harder as I've gotten older. I mean, I've been getting them for almost 20 years now. Like it's it can be frustrating, and I do deal with anxiety now, so it just I at some point during those appointments I do experience claustrophobia, and it's it's not the most enjoyable part of the MS diagnosis. I don't like it.
Yeah, yeah. I had a neuroradiologist on the show, on the German one, who is responsible for the magnums, so for the guidelines of how to do MRIs. And he even said nowadays he had to go into MRI for some reason, and he didn't find
Yeah.
it so funny anymore.
Yeah.
So
No.
I'm like,
No.
okay, it can even happen to the neuroradiologist. Yeah. For me, it's normally fine, but I know many people have issues, and maybe it will stop to be fine at one point. Who knows? We'll see. Do you use symptomatic therapies such as medication, specialized therapists, or rehabilitation programs? And how readily available are they in your rural area?
So till like currently I am only on my DMTs. So thankfully, that is the only medication that I'm taking at the moment. Medications, I mean, I have taken medications for like my insomnia, for my bladder problems, and I'm grateful that there are pharmacies nearby that provide that for me. I have also had the opportunity to do occupational, physical, and speech therapies, but for those, I did them while I was living in a different city that was much bigger than my community. I will say my community has gotten bigger, so there are those resources available, but I definitely think that there could be more. And I hope that that becomes the case soon, because I find it kind of hard to be continuously traveling to be getting like these resources when they should be readily available to us, like from a 10-minute to a 15-minute distance. But I commute a lot, so I can definitely say that that still continues to be a challenge for me. And yeah, it definitely takes a toll on my body, and it like triggers my MS, but it's just something that I have to do. So it's just a part of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We are having these issues with, let's say, all the therapists as well here when you are living in a smaller village.
Yeah.
But I guess in the US, it's due to the size of your country, it's even a bit more the case. Have you adapted your lifestyle after the diagnosis? I mean, it's a question I normally asking my interview partners, but of course you were only 11, so I don't know how much relevance that question is to you.
I mean, I can definitely say just because my MS has evolved so much, but also in terms of my disability, I have adapted. I mean, I feel like initially I was in denial of my diagnosis. So I would always tell myself, no, well, you're normal. Like you're not dealing with that. And you only have to deal with that whenever you go to your therapies or whenever you go to see your doctor or get your treatments. But I have definitely come to terms with it. I can definitely say that I am more patient with myself. I show myself grace. And I mean, that's that has been something that has definitely changed the way that I perceive my diagnosis, because I struggled with that a lot for many years. But I can say that I've adapted. And I continue to adapt, right? Like it's just it. I feel like you can say that like, oh yeah, like I've definitely changed the way that I perceive myself, my diagnosis, and the way that I see life, right? Because of it. But life is ever evolving, and so do we. So it's just something that you're continuously working on every single day.
Yes, that's true. So how are you currently doing with your MS?
So I'm grateful that my current DMT has kept my MS stable. I do live with a catheter full time because of a really nasty relapse that I experienced in 2020. That has been an adjustment, but I'm grateful that I'm doing a lot better when it comes to my catheter and adapting my lifestyle to that as well. Um, I think I'm doing pretty well so far. I mean, can definitely say no 2 days are the same. Everything can really change at like any given time. And my MS loves to be unpredictable, loves to humble me. And I just, I just try to roll with the punches and try to do as best as I can with what I have.
That's good. I guess that's the best to do. So let's start. Let's talk a little bit about the invisible battles you are fighting with your MS. What was your rock bottom with multiple sclerosis, and how did you fight your way back out?
Oof. So I can say that my rock bottom was when I was 13 years old. So that was when I experienced my worst MS relapse to date. And that was when I became paralyzed from the neck down. So I couldn't move at all. I was having to use a wheelchair. My parents had to help me use the restroom, had to help me with like regular like day-to-day tasks, right? Like brushing my teeth, feeding myself. It was scary, right? Like I was a child and I couldn't do anything on my own. Um, and for that, I had to be hospitalized for 3 months. I had to relearn how to do everything. I had to undergo many different treatments and do therapies. And thankfully, after those 3 months, I was able to walk out of that hospital with a walker and eventually adjust and graduate to a cane and then graduate to not having to use mobility aids then. And honestly, I'm beyond proud of myself for having to go through all of that. And it was such a scary time for me and it impacted my mental health in ways that I will never understand even till this point. But it was scary, but got through it. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. And probably the love and support of your family was very important and helped you. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
wow, yeah, it sounds really scary. And with 13, wow, that's such a young age. I mean, it's horrible if you
No.
experience that as a grown up, but as a kid,
I know. My mom was
that's a
a
lot.
rock. She was there every single day with me in the hospital. She slept in those like little cots next to me.
Oh.
She at the hospital, since I was at a rehab facility there, they would take us on like these field trips, right? They would take us to like the mall. And the one place that I loved going to was the library, which was in Phoenix. And me and my mom, we loved going there. She ended up taking classes there while I was like in the hospital, and she learned how to like use the computer and all of that. Like it was just it it was such a pivotal moment for my life in terms of like just still being a teenager, but also having to go through that like because of my MS. And I'm very grateful for my family, and they had to honestly go through like so many sacrifices to be able to support me and like be there for me in that sense. And I mean, they mean the world to me then and now. And yeah, I'm very grateful for their love and their support.
Yes. And being a mom now myself with two kids, I can just
Yeah.
assure you. I mean, yeah, you are doing everything, and of course, I think for a mom, it's so important to be able to give that support. And I think still you think, oh God, can I do anything more? Because my child is going through such difficult times. Yeah, amazing. Say hi to your mom and that she is
I
a
will.
very lovely, a great person.
I know
Um,
she's an icon. I love her.
about which invisible symptoms or burdens are you talking regularly?
Yeah, so I actually experience an array of MS symptoms on the daily, but to be quite honest, the main ones that I guess are considered not visible and come across as a challenge for me every single day is brain fog, fatigue, chronic pain, migraines, vertigo, spasticity, heat sensitivity, especially right now with the summer and the triple digit temperatures, which make my life so much more difficult. Neuropathic pain, dizziness, blurred vision, bladder issues because people can't really see it, but yeah,
Mm.
the bag is strapped underneath my pants. And I mean, yeah, like at the top of my head, those are the ones that I deal with like on a day-to-day basis. But obviously, like I said, my MS loves to humble me and loves to throw curveballs my way. So I never know what I'm going to be facing every morning, but I just try to do my best and try to be as graceful as I can with myself. And I have to deal with all of this on my own at times, but yeah.
Very amazing. You are a very strong person. That's really incredible. And it's great. I mean, it's important that people like you are talking about all this and still doing it in with that strong presence and showing that that life is still beautiful besides all that issues, because I think that can help a lot of people who are probably in a more depressive mode and who are thinking, oh, I can't take it anymore, because we can be very strong if we have to, and of course it's important that we have support, but it's really great that you are talking about all these and showing your pictures. And I mean, I always get in good mood, even though you are talking about not so great things from day to day, but you are talking also about beautiful things in life. But I'm always thinking like, wow, yeah, Chris is really a great person, and she is a you're giving big value to our MS community, I think. So, what is your main goal you want to reach with your social media account?
I think when I think about my social media platforms, I always think of my 11-year-old self. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I think of her is because I didn't really have anyone showing me how I was supposed to be doing this whole MS thing. I didn't have anyone helping me navigate like this colossal change in my life. I didn't have guidance, I didn't have support, and most importantly, I didn't have community. And I feel like because I am able to finally share such a vulnerable part of my life, that's what I want to give. I want to give people that sense of community. And I feel like thankfully I have been able to build that. And I'm excited to make that community even bigger now, because I've been very lucky and grateful to have met so many incredible people from around the world that have MS and like that just reach out to me and like send me like these really sweet messages. And I'm just like, I wish I would have had that then. So, I mean, that's basically what I want. I wouldn't want anyone to have to go through what I experienced through, that loneliness that comes with dealing with an MS diagnosis. So, yeah, I I want to help people feel less alone and not have them experience as much hardship as I had to experience as a child.
Yes, and I think that's really something very good about social media, that you can find your community,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it means.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a certain disease, but if you are in a special corner or a special situation, circumstances, you can find people like you on social media, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a very good thing. Bad things are done on social media, but that's a very important and great thing. And you are doing a very good job. So how long have you been using Catheter, and what are the benefits and problems associated with it? As you are talking about, really, of course, I need to ask that question, and hopefully people
Yeah.
are not as afraid of it.
No, yeah, of course. So I started using a catheter the summer of 2022, and that was after I experienced a really nasty MS relapse in May of 2020, which basically caused nerve damage that impacted my bladder's functions. So essentially, um, the nerve damage was impacting the way that my bladder was emptying, and it wasn't emptying completely. So, yeah, I thankfully started seeing a urologist or a specialist that gave me different options, but ultimately the catheter bag is what worked for me.
Mhm.
And yeah, like having to learn and adapt to this new reality of mine seems to be like a common theme for me. Like I'm always having to accept and navigate like something new every single day when it comes to my MS. But I mean, I I I feel like in the beginning I did struggle having to accept like the fact that I was gonna have to depend on this. But I mean, I do have to remind myself that I am more capable of still living my life to the fullest, and just if it means that I have to have that catheter strapped to my leg underneath my pants, then so be it, right? Like I'm grateful that I can go to concerts, I can travel, I can work out, I can, spend time with my family. And if it means they want to go on this like adventure, I'm I'm happy that they are even open to like, okay, like we'll adapt our plans and we'll figure out how to make this work for you, but we're gonna make this work for you. And I mean, the sky's the limit, right? Because I love a good adventure, and I mean, if it means that I have to bring that bag with me, then so be it. But I mean, I love to have fun. That's
Yes.
the biggest thing for me. So yeah,
Yes. And that's an advice I always giving to people. Please don't change your goals, but find a way to reach your goals, because there are always options, I guess. And you
for sure.
are a living example of yeah, living with many invisible symptoms, but still enjoying life and doing the best out of it. So, how difficult or easy is it for you to get involved with such aids? And are you so open from the start, or is it a process of adaptation and acceptance?
So I will say it did take a minute to kind of get used to and like learn how to navigate having to deal with a mobility aid like a catheter. Um, I do deal with hand tremors, so that's another MS symptom that I experience on a day-to-day basis. They've definitely gotten worse throughout the years. So having to adjust and learn how to navigate a catheter with hand tremors was a whole experience. But I mean, I made it work. And I definitely can say in terms of like having to navigate like the healthcare system and having to like plan out the whole, having to deal with doctors, having to deal with like insurance, having to deal with like medical supply companies. Like I will say that that is a challenge. That's something that I do have to deal with every single day. But I mean, I always need to be strategic with my time about how I'm going to make this work to make my life easier. And that's just a part of the day to day with living with a catheter bag.
Yeah. So after talking about the invisible battles, let's move on to the visible triumphs with MS. What
Yeah.
successes have you achieved in your life so far that you are proud of?
Honestly, I, and even me myself, I forget about this sometimes, but just the fact that I was able to go to university and graduate with my bachelor's degree, as the first person in my family to even have gone to college was like such a big thing. But I had to do all of that while I was juggling my MS appointments, my MS infusion treatments, having to go get my MRIs, right? But also juggling that, a part-time job, having to deal with school and an internship. And I mean, I don't know how I did it then. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how I was doing all of this at once. And I figured it out. I did it. Like, wow. And I mean, I love school, even though I do struggle with it at times because I do deal with fatigue, brain fog, and cognitive issues. But I love going to school, and I actually do want to go back to school to get my master's, hopefully soon. But it's, I'm proud of that, but I'm also proud of all of the opportunities I've had to travel. And that's something that I also am very passionate about. I had the opportunity to go to Brazil in 2019, which was a dream of mine since I was a freshman in college. And till this day, I still haven't mastered Portuguese, which is something that I'm still working on. I understand that I just can't speak it, but yeah. And I had the chance to travel to Europe in 2015. And I mean, like I said, sky's the limit. I love to travel, and I hope to continue to see more of what this beautiful planet has for us. And yeah, that's one of my passions, right? I love to travel. Yeah.
Great, congratulations. I mean, it's really not easy to yes, handle all of it all together, having a part-time job or working while studying, while having all these appointments. Really great. And yes, being the first in your family, that's something great. And I think your parents must be amazing proud of you, as they know all your way with the MS and all your battles, and they must be very proud. But of course, as I'm European, I have to ask, which countries were you visiting in Europe?
Oh, so in Europe, I had the chance to go to England. I had the chance to go to Holland, Belgium, and France.
Cool.
And yeah, I loved it. Honestly, out of all of them, Amsterdam was my favorite city. Oh my God, that city stays in my heart forever. But I definitely would want to go to London again. I love London. And one of the countries that I've been wanting to go to, that I didn't have a chance to go to was Iceland and Ireland and Scotland, just because I enjoy the cold and I like that it's cold over there. But I feel like because it's opposites attract, right? I live in a very hot like climate, so I'm hoping that that will become a reality for me soon, and I make that dream come true.
Yeah, Iceland is great. Ireland is great. I never been. No, yeah, I've been to Scotland, Edinburgh for a business
Beautiful.
trip. Actually, yes, yeah, yep, all great countries. And there's and after that you can make more plans, I guess. There's lots of
Yes,
lovely
I want to go to
places. Italy
Germany.
is lovely. I mean, you can go to Italy in winter time. You don't need to go there when it's hot.
Yeah.
Still
I
lovely
mean,
there.
you tell me when. I'll go to Germany whenever. I'll go.
Yeah. Yeah, Germany you can go from September to April. It might be a bit
Beautiful.
rainy,
See?
but it won't be
Perfect.
hot.
Oh no, I love the rain. Yeah.
We can do rain here. No, but we have lovely places. It's not
Yeah.
not bad. And Berlin, if you liked Amsterdam, you will love Berlin. I mean, I was living for 13 years in Berlin, and Berlin is really a very colorful place with
Love.
people of all different sorts and creativity, and yeah, sometimes a little bit
Love
dirty,
that.
but very lovely. So, which were the biggest hurdles in your educational and professional career, and how did you overcome them?
So I did mention it a little bit earlier, but yeah, like when I was in school and since I was diagnosed as a little kid, I had to go through like this journey from like middle school, high school, college, where I always thought to myself, like, why am I finding having to understand these things so difficult, right?
Mm.
And honestly, I was never really explained this by doctors or, I mean, just even me doing my research, I never really understood why, but it was because I was dealing with brain fog. It was because I was dealing with cognitive issues where I wasn't really grasping things and it was taking me a little bit longer for me to understand, whether it was certain lessons or even like during tests. It was just having to give myself that extra time to really allow myself to learn certain things. But yeah, that was definitely a challenge for me. Like throughout school, it was kind of sad for me to assume that, oh, like maybe you're just like not understanding these things because you're not smart enough, and it just wasn't the case because I was always like in the accelerated classes. I would always try to keep up, right? Because I was
Mhm.
missing a lot of school, having to travel to go to all of these appointments of mine in different cities, and I worked extra hard to try to keep up. And I mean, I tried my best, but yeah, like even up until my professional career, I can definitely say that I've been a lot more patient with myself and I try my best to to plan ahead, and that's something that I pride myself on. I love to plan, I love to research, I love to be prepared. And I like that that reflects on my professional and throughout my educational career as well, because that's just the way that has made my life a little bit easier, just being as prepared as I can be.
Yes, I think that's a very good advice, and as it was given a couple of times on the show already, being prepared helps to overcome various challenges. What additional
Mhm.
support would be good to help more people achieve their goals despite MS, and are there special needs in the Hispanic population?
I think that in general, there should be more resources available in different languages that include Spanish for underserved communities. I mean, even till this day, I still feel like there's not a lot of resources available for even the Latina community. Like there has to be more in that sense. I mean, even the fact that I'm sharing about my journey online and sharing my experiences, like I do still get like, oh, well, I didn't really know much about that, or like I was never taught about any of this. And it's unfortunate that like education is still very much needed in terms of like our community and our diagnosis. And I mean, that's why I'm very grateful that because I'm being so vulnerable, someone is learning something new from my experience. So I just think that more resources just need to be more available.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And maybe artificial intelligence can help with that. I'm planning to have an interview with somebody who is in that field, and let's see how much is possible already, and checking data in English maybe, and then
Mm-hmm.
translating it, but correctly translating it into the various
Yes.
languages, not just Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
But that interview will come. How do your professional and personal plans look for the upcoming years? I mean, you said
So
the
I'm
master's
very
program.
grateful. Yeah, I hope. Honestly, I had been wanting to go back to school for quite some time now, but just juggling everything in my life has been a little bit of a chaotic time. But yeah, like I hope that I'm able to get into a master's program. Honestly, I've been dreaming of getting my master's in Europe. So, I mean,
Ah,
I don't
okay.
know. Yeah,
Yes,
that's been my dream of mine for like the last couple of years. So if I can make that happen, I would love that. But yeah, I enjoy being a content creator. I love writing. I'm grateful for the freelance opportunities that I've had these last couple of years. I'm currently working with Google, creating content for them. So I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity. And yeah, I'm just going with the flow, and whatever comes my way, I'm just embracing it like in the most excited way that I can be, because I mean, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that I'm being considered. I'm grateful that I'm able to share this with my community, and it's just a good time over.
great. Sounds good. And I mean, if you are coming to Europe, north of Germany would be good, or some other
Yes.
places. We have places with lovely temperatures for people with heat problems. So yep. Let's see. And if you are coming here, of course we have to meet, because I don't see
Yeah.
myself soon in the US, and if so, I would go to Texas see my cousin. But yeah,
No, it's okay. I'll go to you. I'll go to you.
okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Have you got a big unfulfilled wish besides the one you were mentioning?
Oh, this one was a tough one. I guess my biggest wish. Well, I think for now, I think it would be really cool to move and live in Europe. That has been like a big dream of mine. I think since I was like a little kid, I had always, or better yet, let me rephrase that. My biggest wish, unfulfilled wish that I'm going to make happen, because I truthfully believe in manifestation, but I want to live in a walkable city.
Mhm.
I want to be able to live somewhere where I don't have to depend on a car, which is the case in my area. Everything is like so far from everything, and it's very hard to like be commuting, right? And also because I mean, like I said earlier, I stay commuting all the time. I have to drive like sometimes 4 to 5 hours to get from doctor's appointments or whatever. But yeah, like I would love to move somewhere where it's a walkable like environment, and I mean, fingers crossed it's somewhere in Europe. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, Hamburg would be good for you, I guess, because Berlin is too hot in summer. Hamburg is better. Hamburg is at
Okay.
the North Sea, so that would be good, I guess.
Love.
What development would you like to see in the field of MS in the next 5 years?
Mm, I think I think it would be pretty cool to learn more about because we do see a lot about cures for MS to be created, which I love and I appreciate that there's work and efforts being placed into that. But I think it would be really cool if we learn more about how we can so we never really talk about like MS nerve damage. So I think the I and I'm sorry if I'm like pronouncing it wrong, but like learning more about like the remyelinization,
Hmm.
right? So like helping with like the development or the structure of the nerve damage and improving that and making that better. I think that would be really cool to like learn about, right? Because it's I know that with the DMTs and like the medications that we take, it's supposed to keep our MS stable. But for someone that has experienced a lot of nerve damage and has a lot of brain lesions, and I mean, I deal with all of these symptoms from a day to day basis, I would love to learn more. And if there was any efforts placed into that, like how can we help fix that? How can we help, or not fix it, but make it better, make it
Hmm.
more make our lives more adaptable to that because I mean, yeah, that would be really cool.
Yes. Yeah. Luckily people are doing research on this, but it's not easy. Yeah. But
Yeah, for sure.
totally agree. Yes, we have to do things on repairing and
Yes,
getting better
repairing.
there. What is your, let's come to the quickfire Q&A session. What is your current
Yeah.
mantra in life?
Mm, do it while you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
What person would you love to have a fireside chat with and on what topic?
So I love TV. I love film. I'm a big film fan. Like, so it honestly, the first person that I thought of when I saw this question was I want to meet and talk to Pedro Pascal, who is an American actor. Well,
Mhm.
he's Chilean and American. And I love him so much. He was in one of my favorite TV shows at the moment, The Last of Us, which is also an adapt. It was a TV show that was adapted from a video game that I
Mhm.
played and my siblings played growing up, and I love him. I love his vibe. I love his energy, and like I just feel like it would be such an enjoyable conversation, and we would be able to speak in Spanish. Like I don't know, like so. If you ever hear this, please, Pedro, call me.
Yes. Complete the sentence for me. Multiple sclerosis is.
For me, multiple sclerosis is a roller coaster ride that is full of surprises.
Mhm. Which website or resource can you recommend on the topic of MS?
So the resources or websites that I love to use are the National Multiple Sclerosis Society and the Multiple Sclerosis Association of America. They have amazing resources and they're incredible. Like honestly, amazing. They have like magazines, they have organizations, events, and they just like connect you with like the right people and they're just super, super helpful. Yeah.
Yes. Do you have any advice you would give to your younger self of the timing for the timing of the diagnosis? The 11-year-old Chris.
Um, Oh, that makes me a little sad. Let's see. I would tell her to be kind and show yourself grace, but most importantly, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would be very important. Yes. How and where can interested people find you online, Chris?
Yeah. So I'm on various platforms that include Instagram, TikTok, Thread, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as at Crystal Bedoya.
Yes, and you will provide all the links to me, and I will put them in the show notes so everybody can, on whatever platform he or she is active, get to your account. Is there anything else you would like to share with the listeners?
So I just wanted to say that I'm always here for support. I love connecting with more MS friends from around the world or wherever you're from, like I am here. I am a friend. So don't be afraid to send me a message. I'm here to chat, answer questions, be as supportive as I can be. I'm also a resource. I feel like that's something that I'm always preaching to my community, to my loved ones, but also online. Like I can help, or I can listen, like even if it's just a chat about how you're nervous about an MRI appointment, or you're nervous about going to your infusion appointment, or if you want to celebrate your wins or whatever, I am here. So,
fantastic. Yeah. Chris, it was such a pleasure to have you on the show. And I hope to meet you in person in Europe at one point, so that your dream comes true and we can have a matcha. We did not talk about matcha, but you love matcha, right? At the end, we have to have...
For bringing it up. I love matcha. I love matcha. Another dream of mine, go to Japan someday to try authentic matcha.
Yes.
Someday. No, it'll happen.
It will happen, and it will be lovely. And you will enjoy many more things in Japan, I'm sure. Chris, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed the interview and learned something new, and maybe got inspired of how you can deal with really ugly things that MS can do to you. Because Crystal, I think, is really an amazing example of how you can become resilient, how you can become strong if you have to. And of course, it's always important that you have supportive people like Chris has with her family, and I hope you do so. And if not, please try to get help at other places. By the way, next time it will be again about disease-modifying treatments, and this time it will be about S1P modulators, so fingolimod, known as Gilenya, ozanimod, known as Zeposia, ponesimod, known as Ponvory, and siponimod, known as Mayzent. If you want to learn more, please tune in again, and if you know somebody who might be interested in that podcast, please recommend it and rate it wherever you are listening to the podcast. So, hear you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening today. I hope you found it helpful. You may also be interested in the previously published episodes and posts, which you can find at ms-perspektive.com/podcast. Perspective with a K. You can also get a free PDF with 11 tips for your positive impact on MS at ms-perspektive.com/newsletter. If you'd like to get in touch, you can reach me at nele@ms-perspektive.com or on social media. Hear you next time.